What do you think will happen when one of the most popular people on the planet rises up from the dead, 15 years after Buck Owens passed away? The real truth about the man behind all those classic songs is finally coming to light. His children, who stayed far away from cameras and interviews for a very long time, are now starting to speak openly. They are confirming many of the old rumors that used to float around about their father. What a lot of people long suspected is now being said out loud, and it is damaging the image of a man who spent his whole life in the bright lights of fame while hiding secrets almost nobody understood. Buck Owens did not begin his life anywhere near glamour or money. Every single step he took pulled him closer to a world that would never really let him rest or feel safe. His story does not kick off with a spotlight or cheering crowds. It starts with a little boy, trapped in real poverty, a kid who had to carry the weight of keeping his family fed long before anyone ever shouted his name from a stage. He figured out very early that people's praise disappears quickly, but real hunger does not. That hard lesson shaped every big choice he made for the rest of his life. Even after money and success finally showed up, what most folks remember is the lively music, the sparkle of the shows, and the clean, friendly grin that looked perfect on television. But behind that TV smile stood a man who made a promise to himself. He would never feel powerless or small. Again, his climb to the top came straight from that deep need. The tight control he kept over everything came from that old fear. And the legacy he left behind was built from real talent, huge ambition, and a sharp determination that could cut right through anyone who thought they really knew him. The people who worked closest to him saw both sides of Buck long before the rest of the world caught on. They watched the young musician who could take a plain melody and turn it into a song that defined his whole career. They also saw the man who refused to let anyone else take even a little bit of the credit. That two-sided nature stuck with him all through his early days in Bakersfield. Through late nights in smoky clubs, through doors that opened and doors that slammed shut in his face. Even back then, his inner circle whispered that Buck never forgot when someone wronged him, and he never forgave it either. They noticed that the bigger his successes got, the quieter and more careful he became, almost suspicious of all the praise coming his way. Fame brought lots of attention, but it never brought real safety. So he built his own walls of safety and held them very close. The first major turning point in his life happened way before anyone started talking about scandals or big rivalries. It came when a woman named Bonnie Campbell walked into his world at a time when he badly needed something steady. Their marriage showed how fast that kind of stability could fall apart when big dreams and ambition put too much pressure on it. Bonnie gave birth to his son, Buddy. Alan and tried to hold their small family together, while Buck's drive to succeed got stronger and sharper. The marriage finally broke under the weight of a man chasing greatness and a woman who still believed in softer, gentler things. They divorced quietly in the early 1950s. That split later turned into one of the most talked about stories in country music history when Bonnie went on to marry Merle Haggard. The same Merle Haggard who would one day be Buck's rival on the charts, his sometime collaborator, his enemy, in private, and a very reluctant friend. That complicated triangle actually began right there. Years before the public had any idea how heavy it would become, Buck threw himself even deeper into music like it was the only thing keeping him afloat. He played every stage he could book, grabbed every radio chance, and chased every opportunity to take full control of a music world that had once looked right past him. The famous Bakersfield Sound did not just drop into his lap. He built it carefully, piece by piece. With the exactness of someone who believed a strong sound could act like armor against the world, fame did not arrive all at once. But once it did arrive, it never really let go of him. He moved up from tiny local stages to huge national platforms, from small bars to the bright television lights that eventually made him a star. The Buckaroos band formed around him, a very tight group of talented players held together by strict discipline, fresh ideas, and an unspoken rule that Buck demanded the highest level every single time. Nobody understood Buck better than his lead guitarist, Don Rich. Don was way more than just another band member. He was the true emotional center of the Buckaroos, the one person who could push Buck creatively without getting the cold, silent treatment that scared everyone else, Dawn brought a natural brightness and warmth that Buck did not carry on his own, a gentle balance to Buck's sharp instinct to stay in total control. Together they created a sound that defined a whole era of country music. Together, they built a legacy that stood stronger than all the egos, rivalries, and outside pressures around them. Buck depended on Dawn's steady presence far more than he ever said in public. Some people inside the circle even claimed Dawn was the only one who could straight up tell Buck no without causing trouble or hard feelings. Their partnership became the real heart of the music and the backbone of the big empire. Buck worked years to create. As his fame kept growing, the tension in his personal life grew right along with it. Women moved in and out of his world so quickly that gossip writers could barely keep up. He married more than once and fathered 3 sons along the way. Every relationship had its own mix of real affection, emotional distance, and arguments. Friends who watched from close up noticed a clear pattern. He would fall in love hard and fast at first, then slowly pull back. Then try to take control again whenever he felt the order he built was threatened. That same emotional pattern shaped almost every story told about him later on. Some people described him as charming and warm, others called him difficult and tough to deal with. Many agreed he was far more complicated than the happy, smiling host that TV audiences loved every week. Television turned Buck into a name almost every American household knew. He brought country music right into living rooms across the country and shaped what people expected from it with a level of control that sometimes looked close to perfect. The jokes, the smooth presentation, the easy chemistry with his co-hosts all created the feeling that everything was relaxed and fun. But the truth was, Buck controlled every tiny detail behind the scenes. He decided the arrangements, set the high standards, and expected complete loyalty from anyone who stood next to him on stage or in the studio. To the audience at home, it all looked effortless and smooth. To the people in his inner circle, it looked like a man who would not let his empire move even half an inch without his personal approval in the background. His rivalry with Merle Haggard kept growing in small, sharp steps. It started as a musical competition, spread through shared industry friends and events, and got much deeper after Bonnie became Merle's wife. Bakersfield started feeling way too small for 2 men carrying that much pride and talent. Their back and forth tension pulled attention from every corner of the music world. Newspaper writers liked to call it a clash of different country styles. People who knew them better called it a clash of strong personalities. Neither Buck nor Merle ever wanted to admit the deeper truth. They actually needed each other in some ways. They were like mirrors of a whole generation trying to figure out their place in a music business that kept changing fast. The public mostly saw the big hits. They both put out their close circles, all the real strain underneath. By the middle of his rise to the top, Buck sat at the very peak of country music. He had wealth, real power in the industry, complete control over his own recordings, and a signature sound nobody else could match. What he did not have was any way to see the one moment coming that would crack almost everything he had built so carefully. It would not come from a big public scandal. It would not come from a rival beating him. It would come from losing the one person who had quietly kept his whole world in balance for so long that loss was getting closer faster than he knew. And once it hit, nothing in his life would ever look or feel the same again.